wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about what to eat during the summer when you are on the fertility journey. You may be invited to a lot of barbecues, a lot of social events. Maybe you started the elimination diet and you're wondering, how do you navigate this with all the seasonal produce in the summer? And so diet and nutrition is key when you're on the fertility journey. We see a lot of people with food sensitivities. And so digging into the diet piece, but this is not about you drinking green juice and starving. It's about figuring out how food impacts your fertility and then doing this and eating foods that are amazing and really making these changes along with your partner, enjoying the bounty of the summer seasonal foods. We're talking about mocktails. We're talking about easy dips. We're talking about things to add, electrolytes to help with your water so you can absorb it, and some really easy tips on how to enjoy foods during the summer. So it is not about you, as I say, starving and drinking green juice. It's about feeling how food can then impact your body. Hey, Caitlin, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. Today we're going to be talking all about summer food. So Caitlin's got a background as a chef as well as a nutritional practitioner. And so I love, she's helped us design all of our meal challenges there that we have. So the Fertility Diet Freebie, definitely check that out. We have the summer one going on right now, all with recipes that you can eat for the summer. But today we wanted to talk about how to navigate being on the fertility journey. Sometimes people are, you're on vacation, you're invited to barbecues, you're in the summertime, you want to relax. Typically, I know, like, I was just asking my husband the other day, I'm like, what's your favorite season? He's like, well, like, we're here in Canada, right? And so he's like, well, I like winter because I like to ski, and then fall is good, and then spring. I'm like, this, like, someone asked me, it literally is like summer. There's no even, like, this is my season. I was born in August, maybe that's why. But I love summer. I love food. I love being outside. And so, we were just chatting before this about sometimes we get so excited with all these invites because people fall asleep during the winter and the rest of the season, and everyone wakes up and you're like busy all the time, and then how to balance some of that. So I guess kind of starting out with the seasonal eating, what's some recommendations for that, and what can we do there?
Yeah, I really love this topic because oftentimes, when I'm working with clients and we're talking about different foods and they have a challenge to get in different diversity, different things, they're kind of stuck in a rut of eating the same thing day in and day out. And so then we always talk about seasonal eating and really what is that? And sometimes, people have to think it through because in our modern day world, we can get anything at any point in time. So we can get strawberries in February. We can get tomatoes in February. Are they really great? Not really. They're not very flavorful. And so think back on, what is growing during this time, wherever you are at in the world. It's really, really interesting to eat this way, to eat seasonally. And so, we're in the height of summer. It's like all of these juicy, ripe tomatoes. You're never going to get a tomato that's more fresh than it is in the summertime, right? And what goes with those tomatoes? The basil and the eggplant, and, there's the summer squash and the zucchini. All of these things are in such abundance right now. All the melons, the watermelons. So it's just like, take advantage of the seasonal food now while it's so fresh, so nutrient rich in all of the, minerals and vitamins and antioxidants. It's just going to go downhill from there in the wintertime, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
That house tomato is not going to taste the same.
No, or the strawberry, you open it up and like, why is the strawberry white inside? Well, you're eating strawberries in February, right? And so although it's interesting around here, so I have like a local health food store that we do our shopping at, but then we go up north kind of more in the summer, which is, people say up north, but you are up north, but yeah, even further up north. And then up here, the grocery stores are a little more limited. Like, literally, they have a little organic section. And I was looking at stuff and I'm like, I was in a bad mood, but it was like the peaches were rotten, the nectarines were rotten, the the lettuce, like the romaine lettuce was rotten, like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, and I want to buy organic. And then there's a lot of local food stands, but those are, they're local, but not organic. And then I just was like, I don't know, I was just like ticked off as them because I'm like, I love like the produce that comes out now, right? As we're recording this in mid-July of what we have to eat. And so, and having like more salad. I just actually today had some, I don't normally eat a lot of that, but I had like rice and I had some eggs mixed with it and I did some tamari sauce and some tamari and I had some cucumbers and tomatoes and some prosciutto on it, just like this quick bowl of stuff. But almost like, oh, it's like heavy with the rice. But usually it's like I'm having a salad with all kinds of different vegetables. And we're having someone on the podcast, Dr. Anna Maria Temple, and she's a pediatrician with a functional medicine background. And she was just talking about each day to have 13 vegetables.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, my mother has like been like plant-based for years. And she's like, every time I go to bed, Sarah, I count my vegetables. Now, and I'm like, she doesn't talk like that, but that's my mother impression. But yeah, so, and she's like, yeah, I get up pretty high. And I'm like, ooh, 13, right? That can be, and it's not just having a big bowl of lettuce, that counts as one, but in the lettuce, you have the radish, the tomato, the cucumber, the celery, all those will count as separate ones. But it's interesting to be able to get that diversity because we get in that rut where we just eat the same thing, like a tomato or but as I guess the point is, as this fresh produce comes in, there's so many options. And I guess to find a place to me that has organic veggies and you get it delivered like an organic box. So you've got those options.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a challenge, but I want to kind of touch on the summer season as well as like summertime can be a time of creativity, right? You're outside more, you're not cooped up in the house. There's lots of abundance with lots of things growing. And so while we're on the fertility journey, obviously it's a very challenging journey, but, think of this abundance in nature that's going on and how can we have more of this abundance in our life, whether it's this abundant mindset kind of mentality, that we're mimicking with nature, right? So I really love, living seasonally. And I think that is so important. But as we were talking before the podcast, Sarah, there can be like a real balance to it, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. So, because you don't want to get, I guess, burnt out with all these different invites and being able to slow down and actually all of this is to see what feels right for you. Maybe you're like, it lights you up to like go to a lot of things because maybe you've just been hiding out by yourself for a while and you're like, wow, everyone's out and about. You want to go and, meet with people, have some food, enjoy yourself, have a laugh. Like sometimes we're so serious. What the heck? Like, let's go. I had a girls' weekend here a couple weeks ago and like we were just like laughing the whole entire weekend. My friend was doing reflexology. I'm in a trailer park and she's doing reflexology on all of our feet out there in the middle of and everyone's like, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. They're sprawled out doing anyways. But yeah, it is to have fun and enjoy yourself. And then I guess with the food piece here, so what are some like cold foods and things like that we can enjoy? Because typically if you do the more that like in the summer and the wintertime, we just gravitate to more of the stews and the soups and the warming similarly. And then you don't want to be doing a raw food, plant-based diet when it's freezing out. Nor do you want to be, sometimes people have hot soups in the summer, but typically I know I don't crave that because right now it's super hot. And if I were to have a hot soup, even having that hot rice I just had, I'm like sitting here dripping. So yeah, what are some of the some cold foods that can help, and then how that helps our digestion?
Yeah, I love this because it's not just like, oh, I'm craving, some watermelon or I'm craving some cucumbers or different things like that. There is a reason why our body is telling our mind that we want these types of foods in the summertime. And the reason is, these cold foods are really great for our digestion because our digestion is able to handle more of this raw roughage during this time, right? So, in the wintertime, like you were saying, we gravitate towards the soups and stews because our digestion slows down. So it needs things that are already really pre-cooked, cooked for a long time, broken down so that our system is able to handle this much better. But in the summertime, everything speeds up. This includes our thyroid, that speeds up. It's our little thermometer in our body, and it's trying to keep us cool, and this includes our digestion, which is able to handle all the more of the raw foods, the raw roughage, like the salads. Like, you don't really crave a salad in the dead of winter when it's snowing out, right? We want to have that warming ginger and those different yummy spices and those warm soups and stews, right, to keep us warm. So go for the smoothies during this time. Go for the garden salads and all of the the yummy veggies and fruits. And what I like to do is I like to make lots of different dips during this time. So things like pestos, but it doesn't just have to be the basil pesto, because sometimes that can be expensive and sometimes you can't find it. And so it's like, be creative, get your creative juices flowing when it comes to cooking in the summertime, because one thing, you don't have to heat up the kitchen. And I don't like to do that in the summer because I live in the South. And so it makes everything even more hot. Right. And so I want something that's like, all right, I don't have to turn on the oven. What can I do? And oh, geez, I forgot about these wilted greens in the fridge. And then they're kind of looking a little sad. Well, why don't we turn this into a pesto? So think outside of the box. Pesto can be your traditional basil with the garlic and the lemon and all the yummy olive oil and things like that. Or it could be a combination of things. Like maybe you have some wilted arugula that you're like, oh, that looks sad. So let me turn this into something different. So arugula and parsley and garlic. And, maybe you put in some pumpkin seeds or different things like that you just blend it on up with a little lemon and some olive oil. And then you've got this delicious dip that's going to last you, for a couple of days. And you can utilize that to have with crackers, to have with your vegetable crudité, which would be like dip some carrots in there, dip some cucumbers in that dip, and just get creative. And it's like you're adding so many more rich antioxidant veggies and fruits than you normally would, right, Sarah? So maybe it might be a little bit easier to get up to those 13 veggies a day. When we do it like that.
Yeah, I like with the different pastos. And I know some of we have a dip in do we have that in the summer recipe guide? I think there is, because we were, because you think of just doing the basil, but it's like you have, and I personally love arugula, and some of the bitter greens, like the dandelion and the beet greens. And we end up buying, you end up buying the same boring junk all the time, right? So it is to be able to, the more diversity you have, I personally just feel happier with that. I know my husband could be like, don't have a vegetable all day long, and he'll be fine. I'm like, where are the vegetables? I just feel something is missing. And I feel happier, not that I'm unhappy, but like happier when I have these, the vegetables and incorporating into your meal and those little dips, like that's super easy, right? Where I've done that with pumpkin seeds, right? And so gives a nice little bit of texture to it.
Absolutely. And so remember, if you're like, oh, well, I can't have dairy or I can't have nuts. Well, there are alternatives to all of these things, right? Half the time I don't even have any Parmesan in the fridge. And so I leave it out and the pesto tastes fabulous,
Yes.
So it doesn't always have to be following so strictly, the recipe. So get a little bit of creative and see what happens. You might come up with something that's totally amazing and you like surprise yourself. Or you might have something that's like, this is okay. And, how can I jazz this up a little bit more? Or, you learn from your mistakes, right?
Yeah. And so what, anything else as far as, getting in those rich antioxidants and the colorful fruits too? Like, because right now I'm doing strawberries, blackberries, raspberries. I have plums in there. I did have some nectarines, but that was a couple weeks ago because the other ones I was finding, but they weren't good. And then that's kind of what I'm doing for the fruits. What are some other fruits and stuff like that are?
Yes. This is a time for melons, right?
Yeah.
So like your cantaloupes, sometimes at the farmer's market, I've even seen those cute little tiny cantaloupe melons that you can cut in half and you can hollow them out and stuff them with chicken salad. It's delicious. And so you're getting like, a little bit of sweetness with a little saltiness, and it's so good. And it acts like a little bowl. So it's just,
I think that's one of the recipes in there, isn't isn't it? Yeah, we have
I
it in a little
think.
melon bowl with, yeah, there's a
Yes.
little salad. Yeah,
They're
I
so
was like,
cute. I love that because it's like, hey, you don't have to do so many dishes now, right?
yeah, it's fun. Definitely, yeah, fertility diet freebie. Grab that. Don't, it's got a 5-day meal plan, grocery shopping list, and all like awesome summer inspired recipes that are, we'll just get, and there's like a steak in there too for grilling. But yeah, like a lot of like different things to get you out of that food rut. And then anything else on
Sarah, I could probably go on and on about all the dips, but I was just thinking of like, there's the olive tapenade, and so it's like a little bit more outside of the normal. So we talked about the pestos, but now it's like, all right, you have all of these, bell peppers, right? And so you can make this roasted bell pepper dip, that's really like kind of Middle Eastern and delicious. And you could have it, with some like gluten-free pita chips or different things like that. Or you have this eggplant, this huge eggplant sitting around, and you're like, what the heck do I do with this? And it's like roasted up, and you make a baba ganoush, which is so delicious. And, it's filled with the garlic, and top it with parsley. And I'm telling you, these dips are like the way to go because you can spread them on so many different things and use them like a hummus or use them like just a mechanism to get in more veggies. So you could put them on top of your grilled chicken or your steak or plop it in your salad or use it kind of like a salad dressing. And it would just be really, really tasty like that.
So take us through the olive tapenade and then the baba ganoush. What's the olive tapenade?
So the olives, it's the same premise. So, you do need to have either like a mixer or a food processor or something like that. It's going to make your life a lot easier and go by really quick. So you can make this up in like 5 minutes. And it's kind of the same premise as the pestos. So you want to take your olives, which are super rich in excellent fats, which we really need for our sex hormones, very important. And so we have our olives, and they're very salty. So you want to cut them with a little bit of lemon juice, right? And then you can add some garlic in, traditional. And then, some nuts can be really traditional as well. So you could either do things like pine nuts, walnuts, you could try pumpkin seeds, you could try some different things with them. And the nuts are just going to add this creaminess to them. If you tolerate dairy, you could add a little bit of Parmesan cheese or a harder cheese like that. And if not, it's still going to taste fabulous. So you just whip it all up, blend it up in the food processor, and it's like this really yummy, salty, but zesty kind of dip.
And what's the ratio then of the olive to the nut?
Probably, I would say probably almost half.
Okay.
Because, the olives are so salty. You want to kind of cut that with something that's going to be a little bit more creamy. And, but if you don't have nuts, then you can leave them out and just blend them all up and add a lot more lemon and garlic to it.
So basically like a half a cup of nuts, half a cup of olives, and then whip them together. Yeah.
Blend it up.
Blend it together. Okay, awesome. And then let's do the baba ganoush. What do we got there?
The baba ganoush is so simple. So this does require either a grill to grill the eggplant or your oven, which I don't like to use in the summer that much, but just do it in the morning when it's not so hot, at least if you live in the South. And then all you have to do is just cut the eggplant in half and then scoop out the inside once it's roasted, right? So it just comes out so nice and easily. So scoop out the eggplant, put it in your food processor with the garlic, a little bit of lemon, some salt and pepper. You can add some parsley to it if you want, and then just blend it up. And eggplant kind of has like a little bit of a spicy taste to it. So it's really delicious.
And how long we would roast? But 30 minutes? Like how long we roast in the barbecue?
Yeah, you've seen some of those eggplants that they're like massive, right? Right. So you want to be able to stick a fork in it and make sure it's nice and fork tender so that you can easily scoop out the inside of it.
Okay, got it.
So depending on the size, probably about 30 minutes.
And then anything else there with the melons? Any tips on those ones?
So, this is the time when I do like to utilize smoothies. I'm really not a fan of smoothies in the wintertime. And I know this is everybody's go-to because it's quick and easy. But I like to do like the hot lattes in the winter and then the smoothies in the summer. And so think about your smoothies. Yes, we always go for the berries because they're rich in antioxidants. But like Sarah, like you were saying, sometimes it's hard to find organic berries everywhere, right? Or else they're super expensive. And so let's go for what's in season, like the cantaloupes, which are very rich in potassium. They're really rich in vitamin A. Think of like all the orange foods like carrots, like beta carotene, different things like that, the orange bell peppers and the cantaloupes. They're just really rich in lots of vitamins and minerals. And they have this fabulous sweetness to them, so you don't have to add any other sweeteners to your smoothie, right? So you would maybe do, maybe you would want to make like a creamsicle kind of smoothie, and you could have the cantaloupe, and maybe you would have a little coconut milk in there to thin it out. And then, we always want to make sure we have our good protein, fat, and fiber kind of ratio with our smoothies. So don't go crazy with loading it up with tons and tons of fruit, like all the tropical fruits, right? Like banana, mango, cantaloupe. Pick one thing, 1 cup of fruits, and then do about 2 tablespoons of a good quality fat. So that could be, your coconut butter, your nut butter, your avocado, different things like that. So a good quality fat, and then a clean collagen or protein powder as well that you want to add to it. You can thin it with a little bit of water. You can hide some, a cup of spinach in there or some parsley in there. You're not going to even notice it. It'll change the color a little bit, but it's going to be really delicious.
Yeah, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm doing pineapple, the melon,
Too
all that
much.
sweet stuff, and it's like spikes the blood sugar. It's way too
Absolutely.
sweet. When we see
It's
blood
not
sugar as a
nice.
theme, people with like low AMH and high FSH. So really being able to look at that for sure, to be able to do the more fats and proteins. Let's talk about nutrients like electrolytes, things like that. What can we do as we're drinking our water here and we're thirsty and we're sweating?
Oh yeah. So I see this all the time because, we get in lots of clients, and everybody, is very kind of, everybody's pretty well educated and knows what they need to do. But so they're drinking tons of water, tons and tons and tons of water. But the thing is, it's not getting into our cells properly. And so this is where we run into problems of dehydration. Can look just like you are not getting enough water, even though you're maybe drinking 2 gallons of water, right? It's just flowing right through you. You're having to go to the bathroom all the time. And then it's flushing out your vitamins and minerals. So you're actually dehydrated. It's not getting into your cells. And you might even feel a little bit more bloated, right? So because it's going into it's extracellular instead of intracellular. So it's not getting into the cells. So this can look like water weight, this kind of bloatedness in our face and our stomach and different things like that. So really important to add back in the electrolytes. And this would be things like you can buy some electrolytes, but you really want to make sure that they're clean and not filled with lots of junk and additives. So, or you can do a pinch of sea salt. So something like Celtic sea salt, Redmond's real salt, never Morton's table salt. So just stay away from that table salt. So you want to do some good sea salt, a little squeeze of lemon, have on some cucumbers in your water, be very refreshing. Maybe you have some mint growing in the backyard, taking over your whole yard. So add some mint. Or, just like have a big pitcher and add some berries, add some herbs, and it'll just be so much more exciting than just plain old water to drink.
This is so good, because here I am with my plain old water, and I forget to, I put the, because we have the real salt. So I put that in it once in a while, but yeah, it is a good reminder, right? To put that stuff in there, and then the lemon, the cucumber, then you feel like you're at the spa, and it takes like a minute,
Absolutely.
to do that. And so, yeah. And if you're going to the bathroom a lot, so it could be a sign that you're not you're not actually, as you say, the water's not getting into your cells. You're just flushing it all down the toilet. And so as we drink more water, we do need to, like before I go to the bathroom twice a day, pee, and I'm like, well, that's a problem. But if you're like every 15 minutes, you got to run to the toilet, then, that can be a problem too. So, but yeah, like a nice water, something, adding a few things to your water with the sea salt is a quick one to do. Okay. So let's talk about, some seasonal food pairings here. What are we seeing here so Caitlin with her chef background there, she's just, she makes it sound like she just got really, to me, you have really easy ideas that are very creative. And then it just is a nice reboot, because I can't tell you, and people probably listening to get in this vicious rut of like, oh, we're just eating the same thing again for lunch, for breakfast, rinse and repeat. And there's such a bounty right now of all the produce and all the stuff to eat that we can make this fun. And, we encourage people to do the elimination diet when they first start working with us, taking out the top allergens. It is not about starving and drinking green juice. It is, figuring out how food impacts your body and then being able to have the grass-fed meat, the wild-caught fish, organic poultry, half the plate in veggies, and then if you need to have a carb such as a rice or potato or sweet potato, things like that. So there's ways to do this. So it's not about deprivation. And we're going to talk a little bit about some mocktails too. So as it's barbecue season, we'll give you a little recipe for that one in a minute. But let's kind of talk about some different food pairings, how to be inspired as you and she's got tons of ideas. So excited for you to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to bring a little bit my goal is always to bring a little bit of pleasure back into cooking, because it can be such a chore. We have to eat, somebody's got to cook. Normally it's yourself that has to make the food. Nobody else is doing it for you. So I really want us the summertime can just be so hectic and so busy and everything like that. And I think sometimes we can slow down during the summer, have that nice, do you have a hammock in the backyard or, that you can relax, or can you go for a walk through a garden, and just kind of take in everything and all the overgrowth and the abundance. Maybe there's tons of weeds, but just ignore that part. So that's what's in my garden. But, I think it teaches us to, yes, there's lots of activities and things to do and we can get overwhelmed, but, can we slow down and can we just smell that ripe, fresh peach, that's just it's so juicy and, exploding with flavor and everything. And you're never going to get that until next summer, which sometimes is kind of sad. So
I'm gonna have a rude interjection there. If anyone's seen Call Me by Your Name with Timothy Chalamet and the peach, that peach has other things happen to that peach, but anyways. I love that movie. It's such a good movie. But anyways, I love peaches too.
Yeah. My husband is definitely not a peach fan. He's like, it's too juicy. The juice is running all over you. It's just not pleasant. I'm like, oh gosh. Okay. All right. So maybe peaches aren't your thing, right? So think about what is an abundance that just is so ripe right now. And, that's what you just want to take a moment and pause and enjoy all of that because you're not going to get it until next summer, right? So I have lots of really great combinations. We've talked about all the dips and the spreads and the pestos and things like that and how easy they really are to make. And then how easy it is to have them be a vehicle for getting in more veggies. So making the veggie crudité kind of platter where it's just you slice up a bunch of carrots, a bunch of cucumbers. I had some baby turnips, that I drizzled olive oil and sea salt and pepper on.
Are those good?
So good.
My mom tortured me with these turnips, little baby turnip. Oh, really? Okay.
The baby turnips, just like the radishes, they can be spicy. And just try them. Just see what you think. Olive oil, salt, and pepper. It goes a long way, right? So you have your crudité platter. And then, everybody just typically thinks of eating watermelon just plain and by itself. Well, why don't you have a watermelon salad? So you have the watermelon that's drizzled with, maybe a little bit of honey and sea salt and parsley and arugula. And, maybe you put some feta cheese on it if you tolerate that, so just think about all of those different combinations. It doesn't just have to be by itself. So it can be a part of a meal.
I love that. And figs.
Oh, figs. I can't wait for the figs to come in. They're all loaded on the trees, but not quite ripe yet. So I'm waiting for those to come in. And I love figs with an arugula salad, add some pistachio nuts, maybe a drizzle of honey or maybe some balsamic or maybe a little bit of a mustard vinaigrette, so think about those kinds of things like the sweetness of the fig with the bitter greens, you're having the salty nuts and you're having a little bit more sweetness maybe with the honey. So it's a well-balanced meal. And of course you can add some protein on top of that as well.
Yeah. So doing a salmon, shrimp or seasonal seafood for dinner, that's nice too, like grilling it.
Absolutely. That would just be so refreshing, something maybe a little bit lighter than the heavier, stews and things like that we have in the winter time. So you're just looking for, refreshing, vibrant, flavorful foods in the summer. And that's kind of the way that we want to feel when we're in balance.
Right. And all the herbs too, like the mint and the parsley and the basil and cilantro, if you like it. I love cilantro. And then you used to say, yeah, pairing that with some tomatoes, or what else would you pair some of those herbs with?
So, I think that the herbs are really not utilized as well. I think, people use them very, very sparingly, and you can
Yeah.
use them in more abundance during the summertime. So, you can chop up a bunch of parsley and, you can put it in your salad. And of course, I'm always like gravitating towards these dips. I must need to make one or something like that now. But I was thinking of like this chimichurri sauce that you could make, with a bunch of parsley or cilantro or different things like that you can pour over your steak, or pour over your protein, and it would just be so delicious. And that's your dressing, like that's your vinaigrette.
Yeah, on your salmon too. Yeah.
Oh, the
And then
salmon.
yeah, and then when you do the herbs, you always use the stems. I always be like, oh, throw the stems out. No, you're like cut the stems, and that goes in there as well.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
So let's talk about some mocktails. What are some fun mocktails that we can have as we're navigating this journey? Typically not drinking, obviously. Sometimes to have a little something can be okay, but typically we have people, not to imbibe during this time. It can be like poison for your gut if you're in a, many of our couples we find gut infections all the time, parasites, bacterial infections, fungal infections. There's something going on in the health of the gut, and you're working on that, and you're throwing alcohol down there. It just doesn't make sense. You're sort of setting yourself back. Again, we don't want to, make you sometimes to have a little spritzer or have something can be okay. But if we're doing this on a daily basis, on a regular basis, not recommended. So let's talk about some mocktail options, because this is not about suffering. You can have a really fun mocktail and still enjoy with others. And I think there's a whole sober curious movement. There's a whole thing of people now having drinks like with adaptogenic properties that aren't necessarily all about getting yourself wasted.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of fun mocktails that are out there, that you can either, you can purchase, but do be mindful of the sugar content on the ones that you do purchase. I just find it almost easier just to make myself at home. So a good sparkling water, a plain sparkling water. I see a lot of these like flavored waters everywhere, and they have all these artificial flavors and natural flavors, which are not natural. And we want to really watch out for those. So just go ahead and get the plain old sparkling water that you're going to then jazz up to make it into that fancy mocktail. And the setting is key here, right? So you want to pour it into a fancy glass. You don't want to just have it in your regular old cup. So you want to pour it into a fancy glass, either a wine glass or whatever, something that's cute, and fill it with ice. And then you want to top it with all kinds of things. So maybe you have like some leftover watermelon and you throw that into the blender, and then you have this yummy watermelon juice with mint. And so it would be like this watermelon mocktail that you would make. Another one that is kind of, I don't know if it's catching on in different bars or things like that, but you can make it non-alcoholic, is a switchel. Have you heard of switchels, Sarah?
No, what's that?
So this is like, I think it's a really old fashioned drink, like from the colonial times. And it comes from like the Caribbean islands, and it's so hot there and so tropical. And so how would people cool themselves off? Well, they would make this drink that had vinegar in it. And, vinegar is really high in minerals, really high in vitamins. And so it would kind of be like the old-fashioned electrolyte. And nowadays we're buying like all these expensive electrolyte powders and all these things. And it's like, don't forget about this tartness, that comes with the vinegar that obviously you want to sweeten. And so it came from the Caribbean, and then it came to the Americas. And I think maybe like New England would add, maple syrup, because that's what they had for their sweetener. And so it would be like the apple cider vinegar, a little bit of maple syrup, your water, and then you can add all kinds of different flavors into it. So maybe it would be some ginger in there to add a little spiciness, but you're getting that same kind of premise as the electrolytes. So sometimes what's even in Gatorade, besides like all the
Sugar.
fake dyes and things like that, but there is always some type of sugar in there, right? So you're getting the honey or the maple syrup is your natural sweetener that's going to kind of give you that little boost when we're feeling fatigued from the heat and different things like that. And it's going to balance out that harshness, like with the apple cider vinegar. So does that make sense? And then obviously you would top it with some sparkling water.
Yeah, because apple cider vinegar good for your gut health. Yeah, can you just kind of share why apple cider vinegar is good?
So good. So the vinegar actually helps to pull different minerals and vitamins out, and so that you are able to absorb these things a little bit better, right? So it's just so good for your digestion. It can help to stimulate some of your natural stomach acid and help to produce some of that so that you're able to break down your foods and absorb your foods much better. So it's just a beneficial thing, but it's not like an unpleasant apple cider vinegar shot that everybody talks about doing in the morning, which is so not the way you want to wake up in the morning, right?
No, I went into a little bit of habit of doing that. I'm like, and then if you do too much of that, it can mess with the plaque on your, like, not the plaque, but the enamel on your teeth.
Yes.
People are drinking it through straws and stuff like that. So I guess what's the ratio then of the apple cider vinegar to your maple syrup and then your little sparkling water? What do we do there?
So, because this is a stronger base, you just probably want to have a couple tablespoons of your switchel mix. So this would be like your mixture, and then you want to top it with the majority of the sparkling water.
So and the switch, the mix there would be the mixture of apple cider vinegar and your honey. Like what's the ratio? Or maple syrup, and what's the ratio of that? Like half and half? Or?
Yeah, so let's do, say if you're making maybe a smaller batch, maybe you would do like 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and you would do maybe 1 tablespoon of the sweetener, right? Either or, honey, maple syrup. And then, so you have that mixture, and then of course you can flavor it with other things like ginger or, other different things. And then you would top it with your sparkling water.
So you take that
and
full
play
thing.
around with it.
Yeah, you take that full thing and put it at the bottom and then mix it. Yeah, we've done those sipping little vinegary drinks.
Vinegars.
It sounds gross, but they're delicious.
They are.
Nice. Yeah, they are good. And then there is a thing about, like, we were in Italy a little while ago, and it's like the way they present things, like they're like, what's it, that granita I was having, which is like a iced little beverage, and it always came in this little glass, little beautiful little cup, wherever you, like some random little place I'd go to, and it's like always like beautiful presentation and with this fancy little spoon. And there's something about the presentation when you do this for you, and it's not just about waiting for company to have for you and your partner together when you guys have a meal. Anything you want to say more about the presentation and how, like, the importance of that? And
it does matter so much, because it makes the ordinary a little bit more just unique. And I was going to sound like a Hallmark card there for a minute. So I was like, whoa, what? Can't get down that road. So anyway, but remember we talked about pleasure. So it's bringing a little bit more pleasure into your daily mundane routine, right? And it's helping you to slow down and to say, oh, well, I can't just like have this twist off bottle of wine and pour it into a glass. So I have to take a moment and I have to create this little concoction for me that I know is going to be really tasty, but it's also going to be beautiful and, beneficial and just like make me feel good all over.
Yeah. So this doesn't need to be complicated. Like maybe make a dip, it goes for a couple of days, have a mocktail on a Friday, have, just, to me, it's making sure you have the time to do your grocery shopping, get the groceries in. And when you have the selection of some nice options of the herbs and the veg, the arugula and the lettuce and some good, fruits and things like that, then it just makes it easier to look in the fridge and whip something together. That, to me, when it's fresh, it always tastes good.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts for people as they navigate their way through the hazy days of summer with eating foods that are good for their fertility?
Just I think maybe slow down for a minute and just enjoy the season, because pretty soon we're going to be complaining about the cold winters and everything else like that. So I think just enjoy each season as it comes along.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, oh, summer, I just love it. I'm like trying to each day like soak it in, just be outside as much as I can in between calls, running back and forth with the laptop. But it's, yeah, to be able to just enjoy the outdoors, and which then is just like, that's the meditation piece, right? You don't need to meditate for an hour a day. Get outside, put your feet in the grass, and have some nice food, and hang out with your partner and your friends and family, and things that people that light you up. Decrease the toxic element around you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you